that begins all the way back in pre-K. And worked our way up. So just to highlight a few of the components of the math policy here today that specifically impact middle and high school program of studies. Three things I just want to talk briefly about. One being, as a part of the math policy, our pre-K to 12 math sequence and our standards have been revised. Our standards haven't been revised in Maryland since 2010 in mathematics, so those have been revised, and we will begin implementation in pre-K through 8th grade next school year, in the 26-27 school year. The math policy also includes then, beyond 8th grade, a transition away from, I imagine what many of us experienced, a sequence of Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, to a 2-course sequence called Integrated Algebra 1 and Integrated Algebra 2. That will phase in beginning in the 27-28 school year. The opportunity that's there here's where I want to be clear with the transition of a 3-course pathway to a 2-course sequence, is that it is not taking content from 3 courses and smushing it into 2. Strategic decisions were made there to eliminate some content that perhaps not all students need. The other opportunity with reducing to a 2-course sequence is for the majority of our students, then they will now have, again, as Dr. Wilcox mentioned, we still need 4 credits in mathematics to graduate, and one of those must be one every year, including your senior year. With our current 3-course sequence, students really only get one choice of their own of that 4th math course. With a 2-course sequence, students will get to choose not just 1, but 2 additional courses in mathematics that perhaps better align with their strengths, their interests, their college or career goals. To align with that, you'll notice the 3rd point up here, another component of the policy will expand what they are calling our secondary math pathways, which are courses beyond Integrated Algebra 2. Currently, you're probably familiar with a traditional calculus pathway, and perhaps just simply a non-calculus pathway. This opportunity opens up as many as 4 different pathways, which will have various courses involved in each one, aligned to different career clusters. And so the goal there is to provide, again, additional choice for students based on their interests, their strengths, and what they may want to explore or prepare themselves for beyond high school. So in relationship to the revised standards, again, I had mentioned the impact here for our middle school program of studies is that we will begin implementing the revised standards in pre-K through 8th grade next school year, the 26-27 school year. The other impact here is that we will also revise our, you may be familiar, we'll call it our merit math pathway for students who are advanced or accelerated in math. And so with the revision of the standards, we will be revising our 6th grade accelerated math course as well as our 7th grade accelerated math course, which will prepare those students who are advanced for the 27-28 implementation of Integrated Algebra 1 when they are in 8th grade. So for your majority of our students, though, who won't go to Integrated Algebra 1 until their 9th grade year, you'll see here this follows by cohort of students. So for a student who is in 8th grade math next year in the 26-27 school year, they will get to experience the revised standards, preparing them for entering into Integrated Algebra 1 as a 9th grader in the 27-28 school year. And as you follow the kind of the blue color there diagonally down to your right, you'll see then that that group of students will then experience Integrated Algebra 2 and have that opportunity in 29-30 and 30-31 for 2 additional math courses of their choosing beyond Integrated Algebra 2. You'll notice then if I am a 9th grader in the 26-27 school year where Integrated Algebra 1 is not yet implemented, if I begin the current 3-course sequence of Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, I will complete that sequence. So if you follow the green or the pink, for example, so it's sort of a phase out of the current sequence and a phase in, noted there in blue. We will begin in the 27-28 school year. If you follow that down to the bottom in the gray box for a 12th grader, we will begin to align our current courses beyond Algebra 2 to the math policy secondary math pathways. We will begin to align our courses to that as early as the 27-28 school year. And as a proactive measure with that, we know that we have our calculus pathway firmly in place, especially for students exploring the STEM careers and fields. We have an AP statistics pathway nicely in place. We do recognize that we will need to develop in Washington County some additional opportunities in the data science and quantitative reasoning pathways. And so with that, as a proactive measure, we have joined with another county in Maryland to pilot a course called Integrated Statistics and Quantitative Reasoning, abbreviated there as ISQR, in the 26-27 school year. So that will be a pilot, which we would hope to implement then in the 27-28 school year as one of those courses that would open up additional opportunities for students for whom the calculus or statistics, AP statistics pathway may not be most appropriate. And then you'll see by the 28-29 school year, we will then, by that point, certainly have additional information from the state on other types of courses that we may need to implement to provide those additional opportunities. In terms of the pilot for the Integrated Statistics and Quantitative Reasoning course, we'll actually be piloting this at Boyd J. Michael III Technical High School next year. So it will be for students who are currently 10th graders and will be entering 11th grade next year. We're excited about that course. This is a course that is approved for a University of Maryland completer and for CTE completers for mathematics. We believe it's going to be a very versatile course for a lot of different students in terms of appealing to both students who may be going on to college or students going directly into careers, which is why we felt Tech High was a great place to pilot that course to begin with. And this will be a course, as you see there, focusing on analyzing, interpreting, communicating data, and really looking at how data impacts our decision-making in current real-world events. So we'll continue to learn more about that. And finally, among all these changes, right, that are coming in math, how will we continue to improve our math outcomes in Washington County, specifically at the secondary level? So just to take this opportunity briefly to mention some of the things that are already happening that I think set us up nicely for our transition to some of these components of the math policy that I've discussed today. We do have high quality instructional materials that the board has supported across the board in mathematics, which provides opportunity no matter what school building you're in the county. You have opportunity for that high quality instruction in math. All of our middle schools, years ago, our middle schools were on different time schedules and things and may not have all had the same amount of time in mathematics. And as of a couple years ago, all of our middle schools now guarantee 90 minutes of math a day. That includes 60 minutes of Tier 1 instruction at grade level and 30 minutes every day of opportunities where they may engage with their teacher or another staff member in the building for additional support for students who may need to catch up or close gaps, or it may be for enrichment for students who are ready for more. But they have opportunities for small group instruction with teachers there. We do have 90 minutes of Algebra 1 in the high school right now as well. Again, another proactive measure for going back to Dr. Wilcox's slide on CCR, and one of those options is to pass the Algebra 1 MCAP. Also for students who have not yet demonstrated proficiency in Algebra 1, we want Algebra 1 to be a gateway, not a gatekeeper for students, and so we do provide There's additional math support course to bolster a student's algebraic thinking skills and prepare them for, again, those additional 3 credits in math that they need in high school to finish out with 4 credits. And finally, in our larger city schools, both in middle and high, we do also have supplemental math teachers who are additional supports to our classroom teachers as well.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry. So for the secondary math pathway, course 1 and then course 2, is that saying that if they choose calculus, maybe their 11th grade year, does that lock them into calculus to their 12th grade year, or can they do statistics? Like, what does that look like?
It does not lock them in at all. From our perspective, we will want to ensure that we have a sequence of courses that make sense for a student who wants to pursue a particular pathway. However, no student is locked in. They don't have to complete the pathway. And it's really open for their exploration.
Because I do know that, some students that I've talked to started in calculus and they're like, oh, this is a little over my head, and now I have to do calculus too. So I just wanted to be sure they had flexibility.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And I
thank
think
you.
that's an exciting piece about this.
So we have a robust offering of dual credit courses. We've talked about, if we go back to our September work session, we talked about the success of dual credit in our county, the fact that over 90% of our students who take dual credit courses are passing, whether it be on campus or whether in our building. There's not a lot of changes this year with dual credit. Most of that stays the same. However, there are 4 classes that are groups between Hagerstown Community College, our instructors, our curriculum team have looked at and are asking for approval to add to our program studies for 26-27. The first 3 are the second version of the choral, wind, and string ensemble. And these are for students, typically you're going to be looking at seniors who are sticking with band or orchestra and are looking to pick up the second credit that goes along for staying in there. This board has made the arts a priority, and it made sense being that our students are taking the first credit to take the second credit. The second credit does transfer to most of the colleges. We've confirmed that with Hagerstown Community College. And then the other one is we've had a number of students, the courses that we offer in our high schools are forensic science, advanced anatomy, there's an environmental science. But some of the requests that we've seen are for more of like that biochemistry or physics. This is our attempt to bring in a physical science credit. For this credit, I don't know that we're going to see, for those that have concerns with dual credit and the potential cost, we actually don't see an increase with this. What we envision looking at the students who are taking forensic science or taking some of the other sciences that we offer, in part only because that's what we offer. We actually see this being another option, again, to what Ms. Seiler said with math, sort of like with science. What do I intend to do? So I don't have to take forensics because that's not something that I foresee myself doing. Now I have a physical science, physics that goes along with that we think complements the courses that we already have.
All right, so for CTE, these are things we've talked about before, but just as a reminder to it, MSD is coming out and they're pretty much changing a lot of the way CTE is structured. Some of the big parts of that are moving from a 4-sequence pathway to a 3-sequence pathway, and the increase focus on students earning industry-recognized credentials before they exit the CTE program. So the implementation of that whole change process will begin with this upcoming school year, and it has to be fully implemented by school year 27-28. So we're going to begin with 7 specific programs, and that is more or less a pilot process for us to make sure it rolls out smoothly. Some of these are new programs, such as JROTC and welding, and some of these are existing programs, such as agriculture and nursing. And then the last slide for this deals with new electives. You'll see 5 here. The first 2 are not new programs. They're currently part of our computer science pathway. But one of the big things we have are students that want to actually take computer science classes but can't fit the entire CTE pathway into their schedules. So by making these standalone electives, it will actually increase the amount of AP opportunities for students in computer science. The bottom three are new electives, and because we're moving from a 4-sequence pathway to a 3-sequence pathway, the goal is to be able to offer these as that 4th course opportunity as an elective for students if they're interested. Doesn't impact anything from a staffing standpoint or scheduling. It's just providing students additional opportunities to continue just as if we had a 4-sequence pathway.
Any questions?
Board, any questions? Nora?
Kind of to elaborate on Ms. McCusker's previous question about math, I'm not quite sure, but as someone who's been trying to complete my Maryland Completer at Tech, I've been told numerous times that I have to take scaling math courses or math courses that increase in difficulty throughout the years. So, like, if I were to take calculus my junior year, my only option would be to take, I think I theoretically could take an AP statistics class, but if I were to take, let's just say, college algebra, that would negate my opportunity to get my Maryland Completer. That's what I've been told as, like, from counselors at my school. I'm not quite sure if this is the case.
No, we can work with you, and I'll be happy to look at your schedule in particular. But what Ms. Seiler shared, the only rule for University of Maryland Completer, and that is the idea that you're going beyond Algebra 2. The math class that does not count is financial literacy. So all of the other options are there. You can still take financial literacy and count it as a math course. It's just that the university UMD program, what they want to see is they don't want to see a gap, meaning that you've taken Algebra 2 your junior year, you went into a financial literacy or perhaps business math, and now you're a freshman in college and you got to jump into trigonometry, and you had that year off. Almost every other course, in fact, every other course that we offer meets the UMD requirement. It's just the financial literacy. So you would have a host of options. Now, I will say this, each school on what they offer based on student needs. There may be a course that you want, and I've shared this with students, but maybe there's only 2 or 3 other students who want that course, and so therefore it doesn't run because there's not enough interest in it. That could also be a case, but I'd be happy to talk with you and look at your schedule.
It doesn't impact me specifically, but it's impacted some of my friends.
Understood.
In that same realm of changing the algebra, geometry, algebra 2 pathway to being those 2 integrated algebra 1 and 2 pathways, what would be the chance, like, for example, I took geometry in middle school to set myself up for algebra 2 in high school as a freshman. What would happen with advanced math programs or magnet math programs like that?
Yeah, so transitioning from that 3-course sequence to a 2-course sequence, right now, as we go into this transition, we are looking to provide the opportunity for students to accelerate into integrated algebra 1 in middle school, where they would take integrated algebra 2 as a freshman and still have a very similar opportunity to what you described, with at least an opportunity for 3 additional math courses in any secondary pathway that they would desire. And of course, in some buildings, there's opportunities to take more than 1 math course per year as well, depending upon how the scheduling works out.
All right, and my final comment is very positive. With the CTE pathways, I'm so glad that we're able to have computer science principles and computer science A as additions. I've wanted to take them throughout my whole high school, and I've not had the opportunity to because of my schedule, but thank you guys.
Ms. Seiler, I do have a question here, and I don't know if you can answer it because this is kind of a future type thing. We have a problem passing the MCAP and getting our students up due to the algebra concerns. I know that the MCAP is going to be changing, not this coming year, but the following year. So how does this align with either the one that we are working with, we're trying to get our numbers up for this year, or are we trying to line ourselves up for the following year when the new MCAP testing comes out? How does that going to fall? I don't know if you can answer that or not, but
Yeah, so because the integrated algebra courses will be so different, and they are not yet developed by the state, that's in the works still, our focus right now is really on teaching and aligning with what is current. The MCAP, once the integrated algebra 1 and 2 do phase in, of course, the MCAP assessment itself will change. It will be updated to align. And at that point, the test is actually expected to occur in the middle of integrated algebra 2. So there will be quite a few changes as we transition to that, some of which we don't yet know all of the implications of that. And so in this moment in time, we are continuing to bolster what we know as Algebra 1.
So then that'll give us, or I should say, it'll give our teaching staff the leadway to get into that
Yes.
before we test.
Yes.
Because I'd hate to see them do the opposite and then have the results that may not look as favorable. So, and I hope that they do really align with this new integrated, because, we're just struggling, state, national probably, trying to figure this concern out. And algebra is basic, and we've been teaching it and we can't pass it. So I hope that they align it a lot better.
My question, first, I appreciate the graphic you had showing how that progression works. It actually jogged a new question for me. I think it was the 27-28 school year is the last year for the Algebra 1, if I remember correctly. How does that look for students who may need to repeat it? Or so next year is the last year for Algebra 1. So if you needed to repeat it in 27-28, how does that look?
They will engage in the integrated Algebra 1 at that point.
Okay.
Yep, because then at that point, so really, anybody taking Algebra 1 for the first time will complete that sequence. But once we begin the transition in 27-28, it is the expectation of the math policy that we fully transition at that point, which is a lift, I think, for our teachers as well. I'm not going to be 1 foot in Algebra 1 and 1 foot in integrated Algebra 1, and we'll be using that to proactively prepare our teachers the year ahead as well.
Yeah, that was going to be another question of mine too, is, you have someone who's been teaching Algebra 1 for the past 10 years, and then all of a sudden now they got to add in Algebra 2. How are we supporting our teachers and making sure they're prepared for that?
Yeah, so we are kind of back mapping our plans in middle school as well as high school. Obviously, a lot of changes in high school are coming. We do have, some time to prepare for that. We're thankful that in high school they have collaborative planning and professional development on Tuesdays at the high school level, that we have already begun conversations with our principals about setting ourselves up for success a year ahead of time, to allow for some of that professional development time to go toward the math teachers in preparing for these things. The state is also will be developing like asynchronous courses to help support the transition to the new standards and the new course as well. So we'll continue to back map and ensure that our teachers are as prepared as we can be.
Excellent, excellent. And then one comment you made was you and it makes sense to me in my head, and I just kind of want to make sure I'm thinking about this the right way. You said something along the lines of, when you integrate 1 and 2, you are able to then go and remove some of the stuff that some students won't need. And immediately my head went to, well, are we watering it down? But then as you go on and talk about some of these pathways, the stuff that would have been taken out in that integrated is then put back into the pathway stuff.
Yes,
Okay.
Kurt, you're absolutely right. It's put in where it is appropriate based on the pathway that the student is interested in. So you're exactly right. And there's some things in Algebra 2, for example, right now that may be repeated or may only really apply if you're heading into that STEM pathway of pre-calc and trig that, again, not all students need. So yes, your thinking is exactly right.
Very good. Every once in a while, I guess, right? And then the only other question I have, and I think she just stepped out, I was going to ask Miss Anderson. I know a couple years ago, we approved the new website design. And I know one of the things that Mr. Gesford asked for was for some of our controversial topics that would be opt-out, was that we put that right up on the front page for parents to see when that is like in the curriculum where it's easier to find. Is that something that we can still do? I don't know if that's appropriate for this part of the conversation or something that we just ask Aaron to do, but I don't know, does that make sense, Mr. Will?
Yeah, I think what you're probably referring to is family life. And from that conversation, we did list, it's probably the only one where we go through day by day, activity by activity, and we put the opt-out form and we have every material, whether it's a video. I have to go back and look. I mean, you click on curriculum and you have to go to family life, just like you would go to social studies, math, ELA. That's the subject that if we get opt-outs, it's the most common. The other thing though that we did, and certainly we can look and see if that can be pulled up further, is that we're now sending home communications 2 weeks in advance with the letter. And if you recall, some of you that were on curriculum and instruction at the time, we actually went from opting out of everything where you could pick and choose which lessons you wanted to opt out of. So those were all changes that were made about 2 years ago. And so I'd have to go back and look. I mean, I think that the challenge with anything, we're certainly not hiding it because, like I said, we have every material we're using in family life there, would be where it could go on the very first page. And because the reality is family life's not in all grade levels. That's why we send a mass message home to the parents of the students that it impacts. But we can look at that.
Okay. Very good. Anyone else have anything? Very good. Thank you, guys. We appreciate the work you took to do that, and good presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, and members of the board. We're now at that point. The last presentation for this work session is an update on Williamsport High School. As we have done throughout this first semester, we provided periodic updates to the board and to the public, but I'm pleased to share with you that this update is different. I believe this is the one we've all been waiting for, where a part of this presentation is a return with students going back to in-person learning at Williamsport High School by the end of this month. I want to share with you the presentation that is before you. Was a draft presentation right before the holiday break. Mr. Prue and Dr. Willow and I, we met with the faculty and shared at that time the draft presentation, received their feedback, and I just want to express my gratitude to this board for the level of support that you've provided throughout this process, and perhaps most importantly, I want to express my gratitude to the faculty and staff at Williamsport and the entire community for their collective work, for their flexibility, taking a really challenging situation and making the very best learning experience under the circumstances. So at this time, we will provide yet another update on the progress that has occurred on site, and a part of that presentation is a plan to return to Williamsport High School. Dr. Willow, Mr. Prue.
Thank you, Dr. Stefan. Good afternoon, board members. I'm pleased to announce that asbestos abatement is complete at Williamsport High School. The last of the fine cleaning was conducted December 15th, and the duct cleaning was finished December 21st. I do have to report to you, though, that over the holiday break, we did some additional tile removal on the upper level on classrooms that were around the edge of the building. It just was getting cold in those rooms and the tile was popping. So we went ahead and took an opportunity over Christmas break and pulled all the tile in about 8 or 9 rooms and chemically removed the mastic underneath and retested all the air samples and cleared all the spaces. So it's been an ongoing battle to stay ahead of things, but that floor tile, honestly, very minimal risk, about 1% asbestos in the tile, trace amounts in the mastic underneath, so really a low-risk product compared to other things we've been dealing with over the last 6 months. The final air clearance samples and, of course, our clearance letter provided by our consultant, WND Consultants, is posted to the website on the Williamsport asbestos page for community members that would want to see all of those test results. as we cleaned and cleared each area. And content replacement began on December 18th. We started bringing things back into the lower level, and that will continue into next week. And we've tried to tell you the story through photos. The photos on this page you might recognize if you've been in the building, the upper level. The first kind of folded sort of in towards the back is with the folks on the ladders, is outside the auditorium area. You can see that floor is just all wet underneath. They're up in the ceiling grid, up in the rafters, in that plenum space above the ceiling below the roof deck, getting all of that space cleaned. The photo in the lower right-hand corner is staff from Retro Environmental. They're actually on the grid above the auditorium ceiling. This is no knock on our maintenance and operations team, but I'm willing to bet that space has never been cleaned. You just don't get up there. Your head custodian gets up there periodically if you have to change out some light bulbs from the upper side, but they're in fall protection. They're using boards and other rafter pieces across the iron that's there to make sure they didn't have anyone fall through that plaster ceiling. But the really tremendous work by the Retro team. From a construction update, the electrical replacement project is on pace to be done before students return. We actually had thought initially that we might have to stop and finish this summer, but kudos to that contractor who's just been going gangbusters on this. Some work to be done. We're changing out a transformer right now, which is taking down some low voltage electricity throughout the building, but they are on pace to be finished. Kitchen renovation is finishing. This actually is a photo. You can kind of see through the new metal studs there. That is or was the old dish room. We're putting a new wall in there to separate the service line from the dish room and reconfiguring how that equipment is set up inside the dish room. So that's that project ongoing there. Flooring is partially completed. Any flooring we removed on the lower level will be done before students return, but we will be coming back this summer to put in tile into the rooms where we just pulled up that asbestos tile. So we're going a little old school, some concrete floors in some of those classrooms, about 8 or 9 classrooms on the upper level will be stripped down concrete floors because it's just not time. We don't want to delay student return. We think this is a minor thing, so we're moving forward, but we'll come back and get that tile in the summer. There's also a likelihood that regular vinyl tile we have in the building, once we start pouring a little bit more heat into the building, that tile is going to start to curl. So we may have some additional tile replacement that we need to do this summer that's non-asbestos related. I want to be clear, though, there is still some vinyl asbestos tile in that building. Again, it's encapsulated tile. If it's not pulling up, if you're not cracking it, it's fine not to touch it. So we may come back at later times to do it. People may say, you're doing asbestos again. Yes, I mean, the focus here has been on friable fibers, thermal type asbestos, thermal insulation, and that's what we're working on. The tiles are very minimal risk. Ceiling restoration is nearly complete. I would say we're probably about 95%. They're working this week in the classrooms where we just removed that tile over the holiday break, and they're finishing in the tiered lecture classrooms where we tore down that plaster ceiling and restored with ceiling and grid. So that is ongoing. The HVAC was the big project. Heat was restored to the gym level on December 10th. Final duct connections from the penthouses are nearing completion. Penthouse B probably within a day or so. Hopefully C before the end of the week will be done, as well as all of that insulation on the ductwork and the piping should be finished. Domestic hot water, knock on wood, by the end of the day today should be completed, so we'll have domestic hot water back throughout the building. And the new air handlers will be going through startup this week and into early part of next week. We'll probably have Penthouse B started up before the end of the week, probably Friday, and we're hoping Monday, Tuesday next week we'll be starting up the air handlers in Penthouse C. There'll be, if you've done an HVAC project in a commercial building, there'll be a lot of testing and balancing that will need to be done over the next several weeks. We actually just fired up the air handlers above the cafeteria and the kitchen yesterday. It was toasty in the kitchen this morning, so you've got some balancing you've got to do. I think we'll have more warm issues than we'll have cold issues over the next few weeks, but that's where we are, and we are on pace for the return plan Dr. Willow is going to tell you about.
Yeah, so the exciting part is that our students will report on Monday, January 26th. And so I want to give a little bit of, I think, background here as Mr. Prue gets working with his team to get the heat on next week at Williamsport High School. Our teachers are really returning to what I would really classify as a new school. Everything has come out of that school, everything, and everything is now back on pallets. And while we will have teams to assist, to help unload and get things ready, it's going to take some time to get those classrooms set back up. And so what we're really trying to do here as we look at the timeline to make this work is give our teachers time to get the classrooms ready. And if you think about just in a normal summer, we always have those 5 days built in. And I would argue here it's even a little more challenging just because of this isn't a normal summer where I'm returning. There's a lot of things that have to be ready for students to return to hit that January 26th date. So what we are proposing, working with the Williamsport staff, I do want to thank Mr. Knoll, principal at Williamsport High School, his team, leadership, the teachers out there, as Dr. Svine shared, have worked with us to make sure that we can hit these dates. The final day to assign new marking period 2 work would be that January 15th. And then what would be January 16th through the 23rd. Now keep in mind, we have a holiday over there. We had a day that was already scheduled to be off for all students, that transition day from semester 1 to semester 2. So we're taking advantage of that. Is really that opportunity for students to complete any work from marking period 2 while our teachers are getting ready for the return of students. Grades would be due marking period 2 at 4 p.m., which would put them on track with our other high schools for marking period 2. And we felt like that 23rd, all of our other freshmen had an opportunity to go back and see their high schools. As we do that web day traditionally is the day before, actually the week before school starts. So we wanted to build in some time on the 23rd to get the freshmen into the building who have never attended Williamsport High School. So Mr. Knoll and team are doing a freshman orientation that morning. Course grades will be posted for report cards. That impacts the eligibility for our athletes. And then that is a Friday, so over the weekend, teachers still have the ability to come in and access the rooms if they need it, but our students, all students, 9, 10, 11, and 12, would then return Monday, January 26th. So that is our proposed plan, and I think we're available to take any questions that board members might have.
I have a question. So I'm not very strong, and I just think, most teachers are female and are going to have a lot of stuff to unpack and a lot of stuff to carry and desks and everything like that. Do we have any extra help for teachers, especially those who may be older or weak like me?
Our custodial staff will be around, but, the team is breaking down those pallets. So, teachers are not going to have to, necessarily move. I mean, teachers always move desks around in the room to set the room the way they want to. Our custodial staff will be around if they need assistance, but the number of requisite desks they need in their classroom will be there. Their boxes for their room will be in their room. The pallet will be broken down. The pallet will be gone. The shrink wrap, all of that will be out of place. So I think from that perspective, it's probably not unlike any other move-in that a teacher would do if they were switching building or moving into a new building. But we can always, make sure that we have additional staff available, maybe some second shift custodians from other buildings that might want to work at, some additional hours at Williamsport High during the day. We can make that all call.
When is it that the rest of the county goes back to school after that MLK break?
Wednesday would be
21st.
the 21st.
I'm just trying to see how many extra days they're missing there.
It would be, the 3 days that week.
Yeah.
I just have one quick question. Typically, the state recognizes a school being a date change for renovations, and how the times change and we have to say, okay, now the school isn't 58 years old, it's now only 30. Is that going to affect this school?
No, there's no, from that perspective, that's when you would renovate or modernize a building.
Just not this type of thing? Okay,
Has nothing to do with cleaning.
okay. I mean, there was a lot of work
Yep.
involved in
No,
all that,
there's
so.
been, yeah, no, there's a ton of work. I mean,
Yeah.
but no, if they look at the adjusted age is what, as with the date the state uses, and that is a weighted average age based on the original construction or modernization of any square footage. So anytime you would add square footage, if you did an addition, so for instance, in our CIP is the Jonathan Hager addition. While that building is 10 years old, soon to be 11, when that addition goes on, the adjusted age of that building will come down because you'll have, let's say, a third of the building that is brand new compared to a third that is 12 or 13 years old. So it'll merge down to about 9. But that's because we didn't do that kind of a renovation, it won't affect it for this.
I'll just mention for the board's benefit as well as the community, as our communication team has done throughout the first semester, following each board update, public update. By the end of the business day tomorrow, we will be sending an update, one communication that's specific to the Williamsport High School faculty, then a communication to parents, and we will follow up with a similar communication to our elected officials.
Very good. Well, I think I could speak for everyone when I say thank you to the parents, staff, teachers, students, everyone involved. Been very patient with us. I'm sure you're probably a lot more frustrated than you've let us know about. So we certainly appreciate everyone's patience and just helping us get through this tough time here. So, board members, does anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we adjourn? All right. Well, Happy New Year, everyone, and hope you have a great rest of your week.